This video has been very kindly sponsored by Squarespace. So, like I said, it's a Q&A video. I went on Instagram yesterday? 2 days ago. The days are all bleeding together, let me tell you. So I went on Instagram 2 days ago, and I asked for questions, and I got a lot. I screenshotted so many of them, and we're just gonna kind of go through and see what happens. Where did you grow up? I grew up in Houston, Texas, although I was actually born in Singapore, Singapore, and because that's where my parents met, and they lived there for 16 years and had both me and my sister there, and then we moved to Houston. We also lived in Australia and Sweden for a spell, but I spent most of my time growing up in Houston, Texas, specifically Sugar Land, Texas, which unfortunately does not have streets caked with candy like I had dreamed when I was a child. What's your favorite tea and what do you use in it? I actually got this question quite a few times. I also got what was my favorite brand of tea, and I would say that my favorite brand, I really like Yorkshire Gold. I had someone on Twitter recommend that to me, and it's been kind of my go-to, even though right now I'm actually drinking a cup of PG Tips. Also, hang on, look, it's a little Sweden mug. I am trying to not drink. I'm so bad about my tea always gets cold before I have a chance to drink it, so I'm trying to make smaller cups of tea so maybe I can actually get through them instead of having to heat them up a million times over in the microwave, which I still have to do regardless. But my favorite tea is probably Yorkshire Gold, and I usually put, I have like a little sugar thing, like a little sugar holder, and I usually put just like 1 spoonful of sugar in there and a splash of milk. And if it's not that, then I will probably be drinking like this ginger peach green tea from the Republic of Tea that I really, really love. And I love that with a little dollop of honey. Also from Celestial Seasonings, there is this honey vanilla chamomile, which for ages was my go-to like pre-bedtime drink. Would highly recommend. It's delicious. I'm a big tea fan. When and why did you start illustrating? I also got this question quite a few times. So I actually got my BFA in acting. I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts in acting from St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas. It's a private liberal arts college because of course I went to a liberal arts college. And I went to school with the intention of being an actor, and I still am an actor. I filmed a movie last summer and done quite a bit of stage work since I moved here and all that good stuff. But I would say that after I graduated, I had a very big identity crisis, as is very common in graduating college. I just had a huge identity crisis. I was worried that I had wasted the past 12 years of my life because I've been studying acting pretty much my whole life. And suddenly I was like, do I want to be a graphic designer? Because I really like doing like visual artistic work, and I've been drawing for pretty much my whole life, but not in any serious capacity. I've just been sort of doodling in sketchbooks and the margins of my notebooks. All of my notes are just covered with doodles in the margins. And after I graduated, I was just like, oh my god, what do I want to do? And I started thinking about like my artwork a little more seriously. I thought for a long time that I wanted to do graphic design or like even like wedding invitation calligraphy, and I learned fairly quickly that that's not my jam. Not saying wedding invitation design isn't my jam, but like doing very like calligraphy heavy stuff is just not my style. And then after I moved to Seattle, I had been posting more and more of my artwork to my bullet journal Instagram, and I had slowly stopped posting, or I was still posting my bullet journal because I think that I was still bullet journaling at that point, but I started posting more and more of my artwork, and folks started saying that they would have loved to see my like doodles as stickers and stuff, which is what prompted me to open up my sticker shop on Etsy in the fall of 2017. And basically once I opened up that shop, I had also opened up like kind of a graphic design business, and then I very quickly realized that I do not like graphic design, and I much more like the drawing bits of product design as opposed to like the actual graphic design bits. And so since then I basically I had the intention to start working on my artwork in a much more serious capacity. I was just like, this is a thing that I want to get better at, and this is a thing that I want to improve on in a swath, in like a huge, like in a bunch of different ways. And so yeah, I also started illustrating, and I started doing freelance illustrations so that way I could do all the acting gigs I wanted. So I'd be self-employed, I would have complete control over my schedule, and I'd be able to take any auditions or accept any gigs that came my way. And so I didn't have to sort of compete with like a part-time job or something. And yeah, I guess I just kind of started illustrating because that's sort of the way things went. And now I love it because I get to draw a lot, and I also get to do my theater things. So I kind of get to feed both of my creative beasts, as you will. Mind you, theater doesn't pay the bills, so at least my drawing does. So my illustration work pays the bills and lets me go gallivant about on stage and in front of the camera and stuff. But yeah, I would say I've been drawing pretty much my whole life, but I only started taking it seriously like 3 years ago. How are you doing with this social distancing? I hope your mental health is going well. As I said earlier, all the days are kind of blurring together. I can't believe we're at the end of yet another week. It feels like it just started, but at the same time, it feels like it's been going on forever. Like, I can't believe we're already halfway through April. And this is the end of our 5th week now in quarantine. And the shelter in place in Washington is in effect until May 4th. I have almost no doubts it's going to extend beyond that. I would say that like my mental health it's just the worry about the world and how everything is going to look on the other side of this. If there's going to be an other side of this, I'm very scared about the permanent changes that are sort of taking place. And so I'm worrying a lot about like big picture stuff, which is weighing on me a bunch. And you know, I think that Connor told me today there's like an MIT study that says like, we need to start acting as if this is never going to end, just because with climate change, pandemics like this are only going to become more common and more terrible. And so I think that like there's a shift to like a shut-in economy. And so hearing things like that is very scary. And I think that now, at the end of our 5th week, I'm just sort of having to understand that like I need to make lasting habitual changes to my routine to make sure that I do not sort of deteriorate while all of this is going on. And besides all of that, I also just miss my friends a lot. I miss going to cafes. I miss like sitting and drawing out in cafes. I miss walking to go take my lunch break. I spent a lot of time at home as is, but you know, I never thought that I would miss being able to go to like my favorite art supply store and just wander around to pick up art supplies. For some reason, I never thought that that would be a thing that would be like no longer available to me. So sort of coping with, you know, you don't know what you got till it's gone. I'm trying to just do the most good that I can, because there is so much about this that is completely and wholly out of my control. And so I'm trying to make peace with that, and also be aware of and affect the good change that I am able to in this weird, terrifying time. So, I hope I hope you're well, and I love you a lot. So, we're gonna get through this, whatever that looks like, whatever everything's gonna end up looking like. We're gonna get through this somehow, some way. It's gonna happen. Humans are nothing if not resilient, sometimes to a fault. Where do you get your clothes? You're so cute. Oh my god, thanks. I get my clothes mostly from thrift stores. I do get my jeans from Madewell. I recognize that they're fast fashion, but they are the only jeans that I have found that fit me, because I have a really long torso and comparatively short legs, and I also have like really wide hips and a big butt, and so it's hard to find jeans that fit me, and Madewells are the only ones I've found that consistently fit and are super comfy, and they last a decent while. They last, you know, a good 3-4 years. So, I get my jeans from there. I've been getting a lot of my clothes from everlane.com, but some like sort of, there's been a lot of stuff that's come up recently about Everlane being very like greenwashing their business, which is essentially where companies like try to say that they're radical in terms of their sustainability or ethical sort of practices, but in turn it just seems to be more of like a marketing ploy. And so I thought Everlane was on a level, but I've just been reading more and more stuff that's kind of been putting a bad taste in my mouth about them. So I did recently discover Big Bud Press, which is where I got my amazing pink pants from, and they are a ethical, sustainable company based in Los Angeles, and they're also pretty damn affordable as far as like sustainable brands go. So I would say most of my clothes currently I'm getting from like thrift stores and stuff. I would love to one day be able to afford a Christy Dawn dress. One day. Ugh, beautiful. But I like kind of slow fashion is my big thing when it comes to buying new clothes. So 9 times out of 10, I'm just picking up cute sweaters and stuff from the thrift shop. What is your favorite Mabim Bam bit? Oh, so the first one that always comes to mind is glass shark, glass shark, glass shark, glass shark love fat kid. That's one thing about glass shark you gotta know. Glass shark is a favorite. I do also love I am Amelie, I eat an egg with a spoon. Classic. I also really love the cursing Jerry and Origami Steve bit. I think that's amazing. I also love Travis's mango cult thing. His like fever dream spiral into that. It's just such a good show. Those boys are so good, and they bring just such joy to me. Pretty much anything that Louis Zong has turned into an animatic for them is incredible. Like Griffin's whole little ice cream song thing where he challenges Justin to make up a song, and he goes, pistachio is good, but not as good as brown. Brown? That classic ice cream flavor, brown? And I do love how Justin regularly pretends like he's bad at improv, which we just all know isn't true, as is evidenced by the freaking, this is Taz Balance spoilers, by the way, so skip ahead a bit, but when he freaking trades the slicing of the thing the slicer of Tupperware aisles for the flaming raging poisoning sword of doom. Like, I mean, brilliant. I love those boys. I wish I could just live inside their brains for a bit. They're just so good. God, I love them. Before we carry on with the Q&A, I wanted to say a very quick thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is an incredible service. I've been using them for going on 3 years now. They're sort of the all-in-one platform that you need to build any kind of website you want, whether it's a portfolio, a simple landing page, an online store, what have you. They've got loads of templates to choose from that are all customizable in any kind of which way you like, and you don't need to know anything about code. They have loads of powerful e-commerce tools you can use to run your online shop, such as analytics and all those good things. They're also connected directly to ShipStation, which makes it very easy to fill out orders. Thank goodness for that. So if you've been looking to make a website, open up an online store, anything like that, you can go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And then when you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/CheyenneBarton for 10% off your first purchase. So thank you so much, Squarespace. You guys are rad. Okay, back to the Q&A. Ever had a paranormal experience? Yes. So, this was a couple years ago. We used to have a farmhouse in Sweden, this like old farmhouse from like the 1600s? It was real old. We found like a chest in the attic that was like full of letters from like way back when. So it was this old building, and my mother spent a lot of time there alone, because usually when my family travels to Sweden, my mom will essentially go for the whole summer, and then the other members of my family will like pop in throughout the summer whenever it happens to work for our schedules. So my mom was alone in the house, just kind of like doing chores and tuddling around and stuff, and she was feeling this like presence around her that she felt was kind of following her, that would close doors behind her and all this stuff. So we had our friend Marlene come through, who is a bit of a, I guess like a sensitive. She's very like aware of spiritual things, and my mom had her come through and just kind of walk through the whole house, and it turns out that we had 2 spirits in our attic. She said that they weren't like evil or malevolent or anything, but it was 2 women. She said it was like a mother and a daughter, and they were both just terribly, terribly sad. And so, that's why they would just, like, my mother would feel them like hovering behind her while she was like turning down the bed or whatever. And then Marlene actually went into one of the barns on the property. She went into one of the barns, and she went up into one of the lofts, and she said that she felt like she was going to get thrown off because there was like the spirit of like a very large, very angry man kind of lurking up in one of the lofts. And she said, "Don't go up there because he might actually hurt you." And we were like, noted, won't do that. But so my mom actually, one time when she felt their like presence behind her, she turned and actually asked them to not bother her just for a while, just so that she could like prepare for her family to arrive and have some peace of mind and stuff. And they didn't bother her. But when we were there, I was sleeping in the room that had the stairs leading up to the attic, which was very fun. And I would hear them walking around up in the attic at nighttime, which was, because like I said, it was a creaky old house, so I could hear those footsteps clear as day. And then one time I was standing in the corner of my parents' room, and we had like a bunch of the windows open because the weather was really nice, and one of the doors near me in the hallway slammed shut, and I figured that it was just the draft from like the wind flowing through the house, which it very well could have been. But then I heard a child laugh from the corner of my parents' bedroom, and the house was empty except for me, because everyone else, which was like 3 people, was out in the front yard. So, and those 3 people, it was like me, my mom, my dad, and my sister, I think, or like a family friend. And and I heard like a little kid's laugh in the corner of my parents' bedroom, which was very unsettling. And so I left the house very quickly that day, and I was like, I'm just gonna sit outside with everyone else. My mother has had myriad encounters with like spirits and stuff. She knows that her dad, my late grandpa, he haunts his old apartment that his friend now lives in. He like regularly knocks stuff off the walls and like will stomp around and stuff. And my mom says, oh, of course he's haunting that place. She says he didn't want to leave yet. He loves that apartment so much. And she talks about it so casually. She also saw the ghost, I think, of an aunt when she was a teenager. She like spoke with the spirit of like a friend or a family member that had recently passed, that she was having a lot of trouble coping with their passing, and she spoke with their spirit when they appeared at the foot of her bed. Oh, sorry, Sophie just snored and it was very cute. But yeah, so I've had like 1 or 2 paranormal experiences. My mom has apparently had very many. So she's also told me, she's like, I'm not afraid of death at all. She's like, of course, she says, I'm not gonna leave you. She says, I'll always be with you. And I believe her 100%. But it's also weird to talk with your parents about death. So I try not to get into that conversation too often. But yeah, ghosts are real. What can I say? So, Ryan Bergara, I'm a Boogara. I'm on your side, bud. Shane, you don't know what you're talking about. I love you to bits. You don't know what you're on about. Also, do you guys love the Watcher Network? Because I love it. Puppet History is incredible. I love the tourist trapped stuff. So wholesome and good. Oh, what delights. Delights. Pure delight. Where do you get your furniture from? Ikea. I would say Ikea, Craigslist, or like Facebook Marketplace, places like that, and Target? Yeah, I would say that pretty much our entire apartment is furnished by like Craigslist type places, Ikea, and Target. And maybe like I think I have like 2 or 3 pieces from Wayfair from like years ago, but most of my stuff is from those places or just Goodwill. Any good old freaking secondhand thrift shop. All of like my vases and trinkets and things and mugs are from thrift stores. So, God, I miss thrifting. What's your favorite thing to bake? So, like I said in my last baking video, my favorite thing to bake, so when I was in high school, and college actually, I loved making cupcakes. Cupcakes were like my jam. But since I've recently started working more with like pastry and bread and stuff, I'm actually finding that, like, I used to be very scared of pie, and I still am scared of pie to a certain degree because there's nothing worse than a soggy bottom on your crust. I think pie is maybe either pie or bread, like sandwich bread, any kind of bread that involves like a little bit of kneading and shaping and stuff. But maybe it's pie. Pie is like, I think the reason why I like pie and bread a little bit more than cupcakes now is just because cupcakes are very much like mix it and like put it in the tin, stick it in the oven. And I like bread and pie because it's a little more tactile and you kind of get in there with your hands, like when you're working the crust or when you're working the dough. And I just like feeling, makes it feel a little more artisanal, makes it feel just a little more involved. And it means I'm just able to imbue it with a little bit more love and care. And sometimes it's also a little bit more frustrating because there's a lot more room for human error, but that's the beauty of baking. I actually just made my first sourdough starter. I'm on day 4 now, so I'm now into my stage of like 2 feedings a day, and I think it's going okay. We've named her Bo, and she's a little stubborn right now, but I have high hopes that she's gonna shape up. So hopefully, come Monday, because it's Friday as I'm filming this, come Monday I'll be able to make myself some good sourdough bread. We shall see. Would you ever move from Seattle? If so, where would you move? So, yes, actually. It's Connor and I, fun fact, Connor and I are actually, speaking of Sweden, Connor and I are thinking about moving to Sweden. We've thought about this for a while now, actually. And I have dual citizenship, and so for as far as me moving, it would be no problem. And Connor and I have been living together for 2 years now, so when we apply for his visa, it would be easy for them to see that, like, oh yes, he's been living with a Swedish citizen. This is like a very serious application. I think that it would just make his application process easier. And we have so many friends and family members in Sweden that would be happy to sponsor his application. And then when we live in Sweden for 6 months, when we live together in Sweden for 6 months, we're actually common law married under the eyes of Swedish law. And then Connor would be able to apply for Swedish citizenship and get all the same bennies that I do as a Swedish citizen. The biggest of which is free healthcare. So we've been talking about it kind of off and on for like the past year, and I think that we kind of have nothing to lose, just because now, like, Connor's recently made the transition to now working like full remote, like totally from home, and I work from home and I can luckily pack up my business and take it anywhere. And the one thing I would miss is sort of obviously my friends, and like the theater community here in Seattle is incredible, and I would miss that a lot. And I think that getting into theater in Sweden would be super hard, and so I think I would kind of have to sort of put that part of my life to rest for a bit, which would suck, but I think that the pros of living there outweigh the cons, so we're thinking about doing it like early as the fall of 2021, but I'll keep y'all posted. But that's where I would be. And there was actually another question that was asking how I come to speak Swedish, and I speak Swedish because my mother is Swedish, and she's been speaking it to me since I was a wee lass, and so I've just sort of osmosised all that, more or less. Yeah, I also, another reason why I really want to move to Sweden, even if we end up moving back to the States in a few years, is because I really want to lock down being fluent in Swedish. I have a pretty good handle on the language, but I'm obviously nowhere near fluent, and I'm still fairly, even though my dialect is pretty good, I'm still pretty clunky when I speak it, and it's very sort of rudimentary, so I would love to really lock in being completely fluent in Swedish and English, so I can be totally bilingual just like my mom, because my mom is completely fluent in Swedish and English, so I would love to, but she can also speak like German and Dutch and a little bit of Spanish and like whatever. I think because my cousin Hannes, I think he's in like 7th grade now, and I think he's learning his second foreign language, because you start learning English when you're really young and then you tack on another foreign language on top of that in school, and I'm like, what? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? Like, anyway, but those are some tentative plans. We'll see. Animal Crossing Island Tour. Actually, so obviously I can't give you an island tour right now. I've been terraforming like crazy. I'm basically just like, I'm just trying to figure out what the hell I want to do with my island. I sort of have this like cute little like, I don't know, like little flower gardens area over to the west side, and then beyond that is like the shopping center, and I kind of want to, I don't know, I want to shift it in a bit, but I really like the little nook that I have for my campsite, so I'm trying to figure out how I can keep that intact, and basically just involves moving so many trees and so many flowers. Terraforming is a lot of work, and I do want to give y'all an island tour at some point, but I actually just recently bought a capture card, and so I'm hoping that I might be able to start streaming some Animal Crossing. I don't know if I want to do it on YouTube or Twitch, just because I have everyone here on YouTube, and so I don't know if I want to make y'all sort of like venture over to Twitch to watch me stream, but I don't know anything about streaming platforms, like what makes Twitch better than YouTube and stuff, so let me know what you would like to see. But yeah, I will give you an island tour once I feel a little bit more settled in. I'm definitely not one of the Animal Crossing players that have kind of like planned everything really intensely. I'm sort of just embracing the natural landscape of my island and trying to lean into it and see where it takes me. I added this like little river cliff area yesterday that I think I don't like anymore, so I may just end up going back in and just flattening it all out again, but I want it, I've moved everything, I've moved all of my villagers and like the shops and stuff kind of to the outer edges of the map, so I just have all this space in the middle. And I don't know what I want to do with it. And so maybe I want to move... maybe I want to move my shops back there. So this is what's keeping me awake at night, just thinking about what I'm going to do with my Animal Crossing town. Speaking of Animal Crossing, I have also had some folks ask who my favorite villager is. And if we're going to talk about just like, in general, like anybody, I would probably say Raymond, like everyone else, because I need that cat on my island. But if we're going to talk about like favorite Animal Crossing villagers that I have kind of like, I guess more of an emotional attachment to, like if they came to my island, I would never let them leave. I would say my main two are probably Gladys and Dottie. I think they're both, I don't know if Dottie's peppy. They might just both be normal, which I know is very boring, but Dottie's a little bunny and Gladys is an ostrich, and I had them both in my new leaf town, and they just bring me, I just loved them so much. Every time they asked to move out, I was like, no, you can't leave me. And they were just, I loved them to bits. I also had Colton in my Animal Crossing New Leaf Town. I even had I had Fang. I had Kid Cat, Anka, Gaston. I also love Gaston. And then I forget, I had an elephant, but I can't remember which elephant I had. But I had some pretty good villagers, and I didn't do anything for them. They just showed up. I was very lucky. So I think that if Gladys or Dottie showed up, I would do everything I could to keep them. I really like all of the villagers I have right now. I'm not adverse to any of them in particular, but I will say that I have Norma, who's a little pink cow, and she can never leave me. I love her so much. And then I also do love Dizzy, who's like a lazy elephant. I love him. He's great. He's so goofy. But all of my other villagers, I'm pretty I like them, but I'm not super attached to them, so... And I kind of want, different folks to come and visit my island, so the next time one of them asks to move out, I'm probably just gonna let them go. Even though, like I said, I get very attached to these little critters. I mean, I would love to have, Poppy. Oh, Poppy's so cute. Or Lolly. Or, okay, everyone hates Pietro. I love Pietro. I love that weird clown sheep. I also love Hazel with her unibrow. She's incredible. What a little beaut. And there are few villagers that I have a strong physical averse reaction to. I would say the only one that comes to mind is Moose, the mouse. He has those weird smarmy eyebrows, and he looks like he's gonna tip his fedora at me and give me a lot of well actuallys, and I just don't want any of that incel energy on my island. Thank you very much. So Moose is the only one that I'm a hard no, but pretty much everyone else in the Animal Crossing catalog I'm pretty chill about. So I'll give you an island tour one day, I promise. Are you still mostly vegan? Just curious because you've been baking a lot with eggs and dairy. I am not vegan. I haven't been vegan for a while actually. So I'm a vegetarian. And one of the biggest reasons is just because I don't talk about this a lot on the internet because it's a weird, difficult thing to talk about, but I don't know if you would call it an eating disorder, but I have really bad, disordered eating habits. I have a very warped relationship with food that mainly just results in a strong aversion to it. And so, as much as veganism aligns with sort of my ethical compass, it was hard for me to do it because I used it as an excuse. I used the restrictions as an excuse to not eat. And so I would use it as a way to be oh, well, I can't eat anything because I don't have anything compliant. And the idea of preparing food is very exhausting to me. And I have this idea that food is a waste of time, and I have better things to do than eat. And if I could just take 3 little round pills a day that gave me all my nutrients and vitamins I needed, I would. I've tried things like Soylent and Huel and meal replacement, things like that, and I can't get around them just because I don't know if it's a texture or a taste thing, but I just can't deal. And so just because veganism requires a lot of planning and a lot of preparation. It was just a little too involved in food for me. So I switched back to vegetarianism. So I'm able to like eat more basically without agonizing over everything. Occasionally I will eat chicken just because I will never buy meat to cook for ourselves, but if we're out like getting Thai food or something, I will usually get chicken just because I don't like tofu and I need protein and I need to make sure that I am eating, because sometimes, you know, there's a chance that that's probably the only thing I've eaten all day, and I just want to make sure that it will like fill me up and nourish me properly. So I would say I'm 95% vegetarian with a little bit of meat occasionally thrown in, but I would love to work my way back to veganism. I'm in therapy for food stuff, and so once I sort of like kind of in a lasting, healthy way repair my relationship with food, then I absolutely want to try veganism again. Because also vegan baking is very fun and a bit of a challenge. And vegan baking is actually quite easy. There's like a lot of really good, you can make pretty much anything vegan. You can make vegan meringue. You just use like freaking like aquafaba, like the liquid from a chickpea can, and you can make vegan meringue. That's incredible. Peaceful Cuisine, who is an ASMR cooking channel, he does all these frankly incredible and astounding vegan recipes that are also just very calming and cinematic to watch. Highly recommend. What's your favorite color? My favorite color is yellow or pink. I am a sucker for like a very good sunshiny yellow though, I gotta say. What's your fave movie? So my favorite movie is, I'm a little bit basic, I gotta say, because I really love the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. I love it so much. It brings such delight and joy and peace to my heart. I also love Howl's Moving Castle. I just love that film. I know this is surprising since I'm an actor, but I actually don't watch a lot of movies. I find it very difficult to watch movies because I get so emotionally invested, and consuming new media makes me feel like I kind of have to make this whole extra space in my heart for it. So it's very hard for me to watch like new shows and consume new media. And so Connor and I are we have like a weekly movie night right now, which is just helping me watch more film. But yeah, so I'm gonna go with those two, which I feel like those are pretty like basic answers or whatever, but I could watch the 2005 Pride and Prejudice on loop for maybe the rest of time, and I don't think I'd get tired of it. It's just everything I love, and it's so well done, and it brings such joy to my heart. And actually, while I'm on the subject of movies, this is how I'm gonna close out this little Q&A, is I'm going to recommend some other media for y'all. Just some of my good old classic standard faves, because we ain't got nothing but time. So if you're looking for more sort of media to get through, I have a couple recs. As far as movies go, I mean, 2005 Pride and Prejudice, anything by Studio Ghibli, but in particular Howl's Moving Castle, Parasite, Obvi, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, cried my eyes out. Booksmart is amazing. We recently watched that. Connor showed me a movie called Dope, which is really good. The kid who stars in it does the voice of Miles Morales in Into the Spider-Verse. It is such a great film. It also has A$AP Rocky and Vince Staples in it. So good. And, oh my god, and Zoe Kravitz. Incredible. That's a great film. And Connor just finished season 4 of The Expanse. If you're into like high tension political action space dramas, it's right up your alley. I couldn't get into it because it just made me so anxious. So I would have my headphones in and like playing Animal Crossing or drawing while Connor was watching it. We could be in the same space, but I wouldn't have to like actively consume it. But I did watch a couple episodes and it's quite good. It's quite good. The seasons get better as you go on, but if you've been looking for something very intense, that's great, apparently. And then as far as books go, I've recommended this before, but The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, or The Raven Cycle, those 4 books, I don't know, it's not trilogy, quadrology? Those 4 books are incredible in that series. One of my all-time faves. Adam is my favorite character, I think, though I do love Gansey. I do love Gansey. There's just something about his bright orange polo wearing insomniac self that just does something. And then I also love the Foxhole Court, which is the All for the Game trilogy by Nora Sakavic, which is like, it's a little bit gay, it's like sports, it's a college thing, like high stakes, it's like pretty dark, the characters are so incredible. Highly recommend that series as well. The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I mean, hot, brooding, rich academics with too much time on their hands. Oh, it's so good. I also love the way she writes. And Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. Classic. Again, another like kind of basic choice, but I read that book like 4 times in college and it just really got me through something. Got me through some shitty ass times in college. I would say that like I remember sitting backstage. I remember sitting backstage during tech one time and just getting to the end of the book and just bawling my eyes out in the middle of the hallway while people are like running around me getting prepped for the next run. Jeez Louise. So Norwegian Wood. Then what's another one? Oh, both The Song of Achilles and Circe by Madeline Miller. The Song of Achilles is about Achilles and Patroclus, and Circe is about Circe. The way that Madeline Miller writes about mythology is kind of magical. I remember finishing The Song of Achilles. I finished it in one day. I did nothing all day but just read that book. I think this is a reason why I don't read so much, is because if I have a hard time reading a book like kind of spanned out over a lot of time. Like, for instance, I'm trying to read A Little Life right now, which Connor has recommended to me for the past 3 years. Or for the past 2 years that we've known each other, and it's an incredible book, but I just haven't finished it yet because I like the way that I read. It's a pretty much all or nothing thing, and so I have a weird time kind of walking in an in-between space. I'm gonna finish it, Connor, I promise. It's everything I love. He keeps telling me, he's just like, it is literally everything you love in literature, and I don't know why you haven't read it yet. And I'm like, yeah, but it's so sad. And he goes, yeah, but it's so good. So I'll get to it. But then, what else is there? What was I gonna say? The Song of Achilles. When I finished reading The Song of Achilles, I cried myself to sleep, and then when I woke up the next morning and was driving to the gym, I cried on the way to the gym because I started thinking about the ending of the book. Circe and Song of Achilles, both incredible. And if we're gonna do a non-fiction book rec, I would highly recommend Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, which is all about your relationship between your creativity and your fear, and it just totally reshaped the way that I think about both of those things, and reshaped the way that I think about inspiration and ideas and all those kinds of things. And I'm also going to recommend you some video games, because obviously I love video games, so I'm just happy to recommend them. Obviously Animal Crossing New Horizons, if you for some reason don't have it yet. If you want something in a similar vein of Animal Crossing that is also a huge time sink, I would highly recommend Stardew Valley. It's like a farming simulator, just absolutely delightful. It's a bit slow to start, but just hang in there. Same with Hollow Knight, actually, which is another incredible indie game. Such expansive, incredible lore and world building. The beginning of the game is quite slow, just because you don't have a lot of moves and it's kind of cumbersome to navigate the world. But oh my god, just get past those first like 7-8 hours of gameplay that feel kind of clunky and frustrating, because you hit a point where the world just kind of like really opens up for you, and it is frankly astounding. It's a platformer. It's very hard, but my god, it's so fun. And again, the world building is unreal. And then another platformer that's also hard, this is a game I haven't finished yet, but Celeste. It's very fun. It's just something that's like also very challenging, but like just very fun and satisfying to play. It's a very like charming pixel art style game. If you want to do a little more long form, Persona 5, I can't recommend enough. There's actually a revamp of the game that just came out called Persona 5 Royal. which has like some new additions and things. That game, I think the average playthrough is like 120 hours, so if you're looking for a time sink, it's a great one. It's about a ragtag team of Japanese high schoolers that are fighting against corrupt adults and a corrupt administration. What more could you want? That game legit gives me such a sense of like hope and like possibility and like makes me feel super capable and amazing. So that game is amazing. Obviously Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is incredible. Okami, which is a game where you play as a reincarnation of the sun god Amaterasu. Oh, you have to use the powers of the celestial brush bestowed upon you by the gods of the zodiac to restore the world that has been overtaken by demons. That game is, I think, 10 years old at this point. The art, I will say, a lot of the writing is, and the art style is quite misogynistic, and a lot of the game maybe doesn't hold up super well, but from an artistic standpoint and a gameplay standpoint, it's like just still so fun to play through. You're just gonna have to ignore or somehow look past the frankly absurd like jiggle boob physics that they have rendered in that game. Oh my god. But it is to this day one of the most artistically stunning games I've ever played. And then an oldie but a goodie is Paper Mario Thousand Year Door on the Gamecube. If you have a Wii, you might be able to play it. I don't know how you'll be able to play it unless you already have a copy of the game. I imagine you can get it for super cheap on like GameStop.com. But yeah, those are my recommendations, just to keep you busy. And I've been talking now for 53 minutes, so I'm gonna I'm gonna stop just talking your ear off. And again, my tea is cold, so I'm gonna go heat up my tea again and maybe have a little digestive biscuit to dunk it in. I'm very excited. I hope that you had fun spending this little time with me. I want to say thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. I also want to say thank you to my patrons just for being rad and lovely. Thanks for everything that y'all do. I appreciate it more than you could possibly know. And I also want to say thank you to you for watching this video. I hope that you are well and safe wherever you are, whenever it is. We're gonna get through this some way, somehow. But I'm honored that you spent a little bit of time with me today, and I think you're wonderful, and I think you're lovely, and I hope for nothing but the absolute best for you. And I love you so much, and I will talk to you soon. Stay brilliant. Bye!